Hello and welcome to another episode of a Brothers Creed podcast. We're talking about motivation, experiences, and exploring the world around us. We're the Thomas Brothers. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Jared, and today we have Amanda Sophia on. She is a Feng Shui expert. She's got 20 years of experience in the industry, teaching others, and she's had, or I think she said over 30,000 clients she's met with. She goes into people's homes. She's worked with giant corporations, Bank of America, Wachovia, Hewlett-Packard, tons of corporations to Feng Shui their offices. And so she has a lot of experience in kind of the flow of a space, understanding how to create a certain environment that elicits feelings of, say, working hard, like in your office, or romance, like in the bedroom. We talk about these different things. She gives some great tips on how to create a more inviting home and how to decorate and create a good space for you and your family in your home that has a good spirit to it and a good energy. And so it's a great episode. She's awesome, and she has a lot of wisdom to share. I feel like we could probably talk for 3 hours about all this stuff, but she was excellent. And
after listening to this episode, you will be a better person for sure, or at least you will want to create an environment for yourself that's gonna make your spirit feel more uplifted in general. And I think that's so huge.
Oh yeah. And now that since everybody's been working from home, a lot of people have been working from home. You got to pay attention to the environment that you're in. I mean, if all these big companies are spending thousands of dollars on getting Feng Shui people to come in and figure out how to organize their office space, then you better believe it's important to your own office space and your own personal work environment at home and how that matters. And it affects your mood and it affects everything. So let's go ahead and dive into this episode.
All right, let's do it.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare.
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world! A decent world!
All right. Today we have as a guest, Amanda Sophia. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to meet with us.
Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. So one of the reasons why we reached out to you mainly was because of your expertise around Feng Shui. Jared and I were talking, and we were just talking about, improving every aspect of our life. And we kind of, I guess, understood a tiny bit about just creating efficient and safe and organized spaces. And we're like, well, let's find somebody who's much more knowledgeable than we are. And so, that's kind of the topic of today's conversation, and how we're going to go through is learning more about the space around us, how we can better utilize that space to really create a better life for ourselves.
Absolutely. And, Feng Shui has been around over 5,000 years. So, there's definitely aspects of it that are working, right? And I think the fact is we spend about 80% of our time inside. And now over the last couple of years, that has gone up, so most of us are living and working from at home. So it is so vitally important that we have homes that support us, right? And so there's so many different ways that I can kind of explain Feng Shui, but I think the most simple way is you should walk in to your home. And when you walk in, you can either notice your spirits rise or they fall. So basically you step in, because, we don't have control of how the restaurant is or the library or the store. And, there's space that we walk into we can't get out of fast enough, right? Just how they feel. And then there's some where we're just, wow, this feels amazing. For a lot of people, they're not sure why that is. But the fact is you do have control in your own home. And so it's so important that when you step into it, it is set up in a way that we hope to help you so your spirits can rise, where you feel safe, you feel supported, you feel inspired, right? Because a lot of the time people are living in a space that is really representing their past. And one of the most profoundly powerful things about Feng Shui is it really is this reflection of how we feel internally, right? And like I've gone in and out of over 30,000 homes. So I've seen that connection, right? So, I can talk about this all day and all night, but in Feng Shui, we really look at water as being associated with money, right? So if I go into somebody's house, like I can literally read what's going on in their lives after a minute or so being in there. The first thing, if I hear leaking, taps, faucets, depending where in the world you are, I know right away there's money. There's money challenges because water is really related with money. So, it's the first thing I'd be like, well, how's finances? And if you hear that dripping, it's like, okay, it's dripping out. Same, I mean, if you've got a leak, oh my gosh, it's just virtually impossible to keep the money in. So in some ways,
and not just like figuratively, but also literally, I had a toilet that was leaking a little bit because the flapper seal was loose. And my bill was up like $50, $100, and I'm like, why is all this money going? And it just was, barely leaking, just a little bit, and I had to go change it. So
yeah,
that's funny.
Exactly. There's the practical of, oh my gosh, and then speaking of like plumbing and stuff. So the other thing that I see, and everything's connected, so when I see a lot of blocked drains, it's usually meaning that there's blocked emotions. It's like, where are you numbing? Where are you not feeling? And again, it's just the home speaking. If I go into homes and all the light bulbs are burnt out, they're burnt out, like they're burning the candle at both ends. If you go in and the door handles are all loose, hanging off, it's like they don't have a grip on the journey of their life. Or then in Feng Shui, the homes divide into 9 different areas. There's your love and relationship, there's your prosperity, your career, knowledge, there's travel, there's support, and always, where people find that they're having, their challenges, whether it's in their relationships or prosperity or health, that's where there's piles of clutter. And what's it showing? Well, the energy is just not flowing, right? So there's just so many like really practical sides to Feng Shui, but ultimately, everything is made up of energy. So here's the deal. It's in your home, your office, your home, everything. It's either blocking your energy and blocking the prosperity, blocking the relationship, or it is supporting you. So there's just 2 other ways it can be,
Very interesting. So it sounds like you walk into someone's home, and also it sounds like the way that they keep their home is a reflection of them, of their internal state. So if they've got laundry everywhere, if they've got, the floor's been unswept, like in my house, if I don't sweep my floor at least 2 times a day, I have 4 kids. It will be an absolute, there will probably be ant piles in my room. And in our kitchen, there's just so many crumbs on the floor. They literally, it's like, does any of this go in your mouth, or do you just crumble it all up and then just throw it on the floor? And so, we have to continually maintain that, because I feel like if you just if you are lazy and you let your environment slip, then that's going to also feed back onto you, and it's going to make you more lazy. So it's almost like I feel like it's a feedback loop. Is that a thing?
Yeah, and it's really like, well, what came first, is it the chicken, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Because the thing is if you're living in a home that's really pulling down your energy, well, then eventually you're feeling really low vibe and depressed, right? But if you're living in a home that's really, you're really working on getting the vibration really high, you start to feel better internally. And like, if we really want to go esoteric on it, it's like there's actually a soul connection with homes. And if you really think about any home you've ever lived in, there's a soul connection, because there's something that home is there to teach you, and you're there to help with the home. It's really amazing. Like I have seen like homes where people have got divorced, and then the next couple might move in and they're great, and then same thing. And so the thing is on a really energetic standpoint as well, if that first couple, for example, went through a divorce, right, and there was fighting and pain, but if that was never actually cleared, it goes into the walls, into the floors, and the next people are dealing with that. And it's like when you walk into a room, and let's just say a couple of friends that are in there, and they've just had a big fight, but you walk in and you're like, hey, and they're like, hey, but you're like, whoa, we could feel something was going on before you came in there. It's just that. So if that energy, and it can be as simple as opening up your windows every day, or, as you were saying, you sweep the floor a couple of times a day. That is kind of your own ritual for cleansing your home and keeping that vibration high,
I really liked what you had said, kind of going just along with that, as well as at the beginning, was it sometimes you walk into a space and it's like I think you called it like a spirit lifter or a spirit downer. It's just kind of, you can feel, um, there's so many different things that can make you feel different ways. There is a lot of external variables that have impact on you as a person, even if it's kind of subconscious. It seems sometimes you get a little bit irritated when you're in a certain space, and then it's just kind of like, why am I irritated, or what's going on? It's something feels off. And so I've definitely experienced that before, and maybe I thought it was just me being cranky or whatever else, but I guess it's the environment too has a large effect on your personal state.
Absolutely. And we look at things like chi is what we would relate to as good flowing energy in feng shui. And then there's sha, which is kind of like a dead or stuck or kind of a more lower vibration, right? So, and then there's sight, there's the five senses. So sound, sight, touch, so for example, if you, let's just say a store, you walk into it and someone like the music is blaring, right? It's like, that's what we might call the sound shot. And you're like, I have to get out of here. This is hurting my ears. And it's the same thing if you live in a home that's next to somebody drilling all day, and here's a great example, Jared, because you were saying you've got 4 kids. I've got, 2 children. And for some people might be like, oh my gosh, the house across the school is for sale. That's awesome. Great. Walk the kids across back and forth. And they love hearing the bell going and the kids, yelling around the yard during lunch break. And for some people, I'd be like, oh my gosh, we got this house next to a school. It's driving me crazy. So yeah. What is sha or good for one person? So it's really like, who are you? What do you want in your life? What is important to you? And then let's align that, so, and that's the beauty of feng shui. Anything can be improved. Like, let's just say, for example, you are at that home across from the school and it isn't feeling good to you. Well, we can do things like, get fountains going outside, wind chimes, just even things to counteract that. So you do have sounds that you love, because it isn't always as simple as let's just move or something. So that is the beauty of feng shui. And even as you were saying, it's like, sometimes I say to people, and this is a great question for everybody, next time you step inside your home, just take a minute and close your eyes and just notice how you feel. Do you feel better after stepping in, or do you feel kind of like just heavy? And then just open your eyes and just have a look around. And it could be that you come in your door and you just like dump the mail and you dump all the shoes, and so the front door barely even opens. And that is enough to kind of lower your vibration, like depression in the front door. And then I say to people, like, look around your home and look at your artwork. What is it saying to you? And you'd be amazed. And people are like, I don't know, I've never even thought of that. And it's like they got stuff that was on sale, or they were gifted stuff and they just stick it up around their homes. They don't even like it. And it's annoying. Even you, they said you feel how you felt when you've gone into some spaces. It's like, so take a moment, slow down, and look what is in your environment, from your art to the colors that you chose. Like the amount of people that have never even given thought. And see, I love your podcast because you're all about empowering people, giving them tools. And the interesting thing is, I think the environment is usually one of the last pieces that people look at. They look at their diet, they look at their thoughts, they look at everything. But like, here's the deal. If you're spending 80 to 90% of your time inside and your home is everything from the past, piles of clutter, like all the furniture set up so it's not flowing, you're not supported, and then you kind of wonder, why am I not succeeding in the way that I wish in whatever area of your life?
Amen, sister.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
I think that is one variable that is very overlooked. We're always thinking, think internally and personally, and get your mind straight and get your body straight and get healthy and different stuff. But yeah, what kind of environment are you basically living your life in? And one question that I had was, is feng shui, is it like directly related to cleanliness, or can you have someone that maybe is there is a little bit of clutter or whatever, but maybe that clutter makes them feel comfortable? Or let's say the person that you said you went into a house and the music is just blaring, and for me maybe that's uncomfortable, but maybe for the person whose house it is, maybe that's like their space. And so is it fluid, or is there kind of like one
set of
one
rules.
line, yeah, set rule that's kind of like, okay, well, the cleaner your house is, the better you'll feel, or
No, you know, and Ethan, I love that question. And I think that is so important. And by the way, yes, diet, thoughts, all of that is so, so important, but just so, and so is your environment.
yeah.
And I think absolutely, like there are some people who love really loud music all day long, and you know, they like their home hotter, some like their home colder. And so it's really like, who are you? And like how can you be more supported, right? So it is definitely fluid and it's definitely flexible, but like, okay, so I want to just kind of go on to some really good powerful tips that people can just, you know, take away. So the first thing is, and it's super practical, and Jared, you already talked about it, but it's like, get everything fixed in your home. So like I talked, get the fresh light bulbs in from the ones that are burnt out, fix the plumbing, like fix the leaks. And, you know, the other one is like cracks, you know, in the driveway or cracks as you come in the front door. And speaking of a front door is one of the most important parts, right? It's like, it's the mouth of where all the energy enters, right? So here's the main thing is you want to make sure your doorbell's working well, the knocker is, it's got fresh paint on it, it's got a beautiful like welcome sign. Because you know the way sometimes there can be joke ones of like, you know, keep away or something like that. Like it is all really powerful messaging. And I'm sure you and all are familiar with Dr. Emoto, the Japanese scientist with the water molecules.
Oh yeah, yeah. He spoke to the molecules, and like one of them he would say, "I hate you," and then another one he would say, "I love you," and they actually froze differently or they looked differently.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So Feng Shui is the same way, right? So because we're what, 80% made up of water, right? And so, well, let's just say that welcome mat as we come to our front door. Are we welcoming abundance, relationships, success, or is it going to say go away, right? So every time we step on that welcome mat as we come in our front door, it's like, I'm welcoming myself, my family, opportunities in. And does my front door open all the way, or is it like halfway and then there's clutter behind it? Or, you know, here's the other thing is you put your key in and it's not work. Like, it's like, what's that saying if your own key barely works in your front door?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's showing there's a lack of flow right there. So, and then, you know, healthy boundaries are really important too. And I know you guys talk about that, like being really clear on our energetic boundaries, our physical boundaries, our emotional, like all our boundaries, right? So the home is the same way there. A good, solid, working front door, boom, that's your boundary right there. That your boundary up at your gate, right? Like, and fencing all the way around. Like, it's not like this is mine and this is yours, but it's also like, yeah, this is my sacred space, and I don't necessarily want the dog doing what it does every time you go past my lawn, you know, like, so there's a balance in having welcome and welcoming our friends, people that we would love to have come into our home, opportunities, and we're going to have really healthy boundaries here. So a nice, you know, gate, the front door in good working order, it can open all the way, and like a color that brings us joy. Like color is really important, color psychology and how color affects us, right? So that's the front door. We want to make sure everything's flowing, it's really welcoming, and it's bringing into our lives what we want. But then when we step inside our front door is the next step, right? So get everything in good working order. If you've got cracks in the windows and the glass, that's how we look out on life, right? And we want to look out in life in this really positive, we want to see it not through dirty windows, right? Or cracked. Same with the mirrors, our plumbing, you know, anything that's cracked or broken inside the home, get everything fixed. Like all that stuff, I'll do it whenever, right? And then Ethan, you were saying, okay, so, you know, clutter, right? So, you know, we're all allowed to have things that we love, right? And I'm all into minimalism. I'm all about that, but I also get it when we've got young kids or we've got children, and there's many of us. Everybody has to be honored in the home. So when it comes to clutter, here's the deal. You want to ask these 3 questions. Do I need it? Do I use it? And do I love it? Do I need it? Do I use it? And do I love it? So does it pass all of those? So if it does, it's not clutter. But if it's stuff that you don't need, use or love, you were just given, like the amount of homes I've been in and out of, and I was like, oh, well, such and such gave me that. I feel like I have to have it there. Do you like it? No. Okay. Are you really honoring that person? Are you being authentic? Are you just like living your life people pleasing, you know? So it's really interesting how the Feng Shui shows up and it's representing all your ways in life, right? So it's like, so the second piece of advice is let go of anything out of your home that aren't those three things. So, because that all then is clutter, right? And so when it comes to clutter, we tend to hold on to things because it's a lack, right? Oh, I don't keep those 4 wine openers. And if I really need one, like, what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm abundant and I only am going to have in my environment what inspires me and makes me happy. And I don't even care if a few of your walls are empty because you had all this artwork that you got because it was on sale or you inherited or somebody gave it to you. Like, it's really a sovereign act, a very empowering act to say, I'm only going to have in my space what really lifts me up, that serves and that brings me joy in my space.
Yeah, I love that. One of the questions I had for you on that is that a lot of my wife and I are fairly minimalists. We don't like to have a lot of clutter, and I feel like, how much is this is taking space in my house? I'm kind of an economist. Like, how much money am I spending on this thing that I don't like to take up space in a closet somewhere? But I feel like a lot of the stuff that I just have that I'm reluctant to throw away is like old memento stuff. So like old journals or things that from when I was a kid, or like my wife has an old trumpet from when she was a kid, and she has things when she was a child. And like, how do you what would you recommend around that? Like, do you toss this old stuff? I mean, I don't like it, I'm not using it, but I mean, maybe someday I hate to throw away that history. I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's say your wife's trumpet, for example, like, does she love that?
No. But it's like so nostalgic, she can't throw it away.
Well, the famous clutter clearer Maria Condon, like, she's incredible, and her thing is you touch it and does it bring you joy, right? So I definitely think it's really good to have some kind of a mementos box where there's like some special things that you put in there. It's like, it doesn't have to have a sense of purpose, but like, and it doesn't have to be 10 boxes, but you just put into one box, right? But there's a lot of energy in stuff. There's a lot of energy, and there's usually subconscious, unconscious reasons as why we're hanging on to stuff, right? And I think journals are a biggie, because you mentioned journals, right? So like, and it depends what the purpose of the journals are, but I have a practice every morning where I write out and I like clear my inner clutter. I have my own journal, and it's like, I definitely don't want to keep those journals. You know what I mean? Like, I love to, burn stuff.
You don't want your kids reading those journals in the future, your grandkids.
Exactly. And I don't even want to be reading them within a month or two, So it's like, it just depends what the purpose of that is, and then like a huge one is, it's like, I work with a lot of people that are either single, want to come into a relationship, and because like, if somebody's single, you can literally in seconds know, because there's nothing but single everything all over the space, and that's what it's representing. Or if somebody, let's say, for example, I've worked with a lot of men, a lot of women, where I go into the space and they want to be in a relationship, but they have tons and tons of crap from past relationships. Like, even people have their wedding rings and still in the jewelry box or whatever, it's like, okay, it's going to be really hard to let a new person in. And we know that when it comes to work. I've worked with many different large businesses, DreamWorks, Bank of America, Wachovia Bank, I've worked with tons of them, and it's the same thing. And one of these large financial companies I worked with, this is, oh my gosh, I'm dating myself now because I've been doing this over 20 years, but it was when things were a lot more paper focused. But when I was working in the office, I was like, okay, there's something going on here in all these drawers that's blocking a lot of work. And they opened up, and it was clients' files from, and I know when it comes to different businesses, there's a different amount of years you've got to save specific paperwork, but this is well beyond the years.
Yeah.
Anyway, they did a whole office thing where they ceased business, and they all just cleared all the files of old clients and old stagnant stuff. And literally business went up by 300%. And that's why they sent me to every office possible. So it's like, clear out the stuff that is complete and gone. And I am not saying erase your past. That's why I'm like, create a memento box. What are the things that are important for you to keep? Do you know what I mean? Or I see people that have already abundantly full, lovely homes, and they inherit an entire home full of stuff, and you had a guilt or think, oh, I should save it, shouldn't I? And it's like, no, actually, why don't you pick one or two things that are really important to you and that mean a lot and that would feel authentic to you? offer it to other people, and then the rest pass it on. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of should, and and then what it does is that's what really causes clutter and blocks in our lives, and in our homes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that you did consulting for these big banks, and that's so interesting that the revenue.
They all use it. I did Hewlett Packard. I mean, even like all Coca-Cola, like all the large corporations use it because they know that people feel better and more comfortable, and when we feel more comfortable at home in our space, we have less sick days, we get on better with people, and we thrive. And at the end of the day, when it comes to businesses, there's more productivity and stuff. And so, and then when let's just say it's a business where public come in, well, when it feels really good to the public, and really good feng shui to me is you feel better after coming into the space. You feel better, like you feel uplifted from being in the space, So like I work with people to help them sell homes, to find the right home, that kind of thing. So if somebody walks into a space and they feel more uplift, like people always say, come into my home and I have to like kick them out because it's like, okay, you've been here a few hours, time to go, good here,
Yeah.
And that's when you've got good feng shui, because people want to come over, they want to hang out, they want to stay, and obviously because things are flowing in your life. Now, just because you've done feng shui doesn't mean everything's perfect in your life, right? Because we still have our karma and our destiny and everything that happens. But what it does is, even when you're going through the muck, right, those times of transition and transformation and everything, you have this beautiful sacred space. You have this bedroom that you can sleep better in and be in your relationships in. You have an office that you're supported in. So it's like, it doesn't make everything in your life perfect, but once you have a space that is really supportive for you, that's the difference.
Yeah,
I really like that. One kind of question that I had is going through those is, being Jared and I are both married. We both have actually we both have 4 kids as well. And how do you share the feng shui, right? So, maybe we're talking about the front door, for example, and making sure that's a clean space or whatever else. Actually, my wife and I were talking about this yesterday. She was like, I want to paint the front door. And I was like, okay, all right, let's paint it. And I was like, what color do you want to paint it? She's like, black. I was like, okay, I guess black is a color, right? And then, so I guess there's got to be compromises, because what is comfortable and spirit uplifting for me maybe is not the same for my partner. And so what is the balance there? What is maybe a way that you can balance between my idea of feng shui and hers?
Yeah, that's really important. And so obviously this is not something we can talk about in our hour together, but there's a whole part of feng shui that's based on the year your building is built, the exact year that the roof went on. It was however the stars were aligned. And when the roof went on, it captured this energy. It's the same thing if you've ever had an astrology reading based on the minute, the second, the hour you were born. There's a destiny that you come in, and based on how all the cosmos are aligned. So with feng shui, it's the same thing. The exact time that the roof goes on captures the energy in the space. Same thing that whenever time that you were both born, you come in with your own chart as well. So from which I can't get into, when we have an hour together, but based on that, we do look at what element you are, what element the house is, through directions, like what goes placed where. But to answer your question in a kind of more generic way, I suppose, in some ways, it is really important that everybody is honored in the space. Really, really important that everybody has their space and everybody is heard. Because it's really interesting, like a lot of the time, I've been hired by people, and sometimes it's a couple, and she'll walk into and go, and then we love this color, we love everything, and then he might go, actually I don't, I've just never told you. And she's like, what do you mean? And then like it all comes out, like he hates this and she just like, it's like, but they both got a voice. So I think, like, to make it way easier from the very beginning, like everybody gets honored and heard and listened to before paint colors start getting done, and beds or whatever start getting bought. And then especially like for new people moving in together, it's like, oh, we're so in love, let's just move in. It's like, no, have those conversations about what's important to you. And you love things really loud, I like things really quiet, I like things really hot, I like things, whatever. We talk about these things because we just want to talk about the fun, fluffy, light things, and then all the stuff comes up after. And it's like, well, we should have really had that conversation. So I think, well, and with your wife, for example, her wanting black, it sounds like she wants the water element, because the colors for the water are blues and blacks. And it could be based on her year of birth that she's a water element, or she is a wood element. And what does water do to the wood? It feeds it. Now, I don't know if you are either of those elements. So it could be, earth blocks water, so it's really interesting when we look at kind of the more mathematical side of things based on some of these elements. But I think what's really, really important, and we've been talking about a lot already, is, do you feel inspired by it? Now, I didn't feel that you felt overly delighted with having a black front door, and I do feel that a vibrant color is going to attract the chi. So like, if, for example, if somebody lives on a slope, or they have a canyon off the back or something, what happens with the energy, the chi, like we've been talking about, it tends to drip away, right? Or there's another kind of real no-no in Feng Shui, when the front door aligns with the back door, because the chi comes in one door and shoots right back out the back. And those houses, it's literally impossible to keep the money in. There's remedies we can do. And it's really interesting because, I'm born and raised in Ireland, live in America for 20 years, but I'm back in Ireland now 5 years. And when I lived in America, the entire Chinese area in Los Angeles, like they, for example, will not go look at a home where the front door and back door align, and they will not go look at homes that are associated with the number 4, because in China, in Mandarin, it relates with the word death. And so it's just really interesting. It's also people's relationship with certain traditions and colors. Like in India, black is the color for weddings, whereas over here it's funerals, so it's like, what is somebody's upbringing, even their connection with those colors, and what does it bring up for them? What does it trigger in them, or how does it bring them alive? So there's a whole psychology to the color, but at the end of the day, it's really like, what is going to make both you really happy, all of you, when you're coming in the front door. So if there's slopes and stuff, the energy tends to flow out, or the front door back in line. So if somebody is having a challenge where the chi isn't really getting, like their house is at the top of a hill and we need to get the energy up there, we will use things like bright colors at the front door, like lots of beautiful, fresh flowers at the front, bright colors, because that will bring the chi more. So a lot of the time, having the front door a little bit more, like, it's like stand out, when somebody goes to a talk, they might wear the color red because it will get them more attention. Well, it's no different with Feng Shui. It's the same thing. The color will have a huge effect. So I don't know, Ethan, if that totally answers your question or complicated things.
He's now got to have a conversation, a heart-to-heart with his wife.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, there's some things that it just, I don't really care what you do. I mean, and I guess I don't really know what it would look like until it's done. And I'm on the let's say the colorblind spectrum, and so the door that we have right now is like a dark green, and so it looks black anyway. So it's just like, I don't even know.
I hear you, and it's like, okay, what really matters to you?
Yeah.
And what really matters to you? Okay, this is really important to me. We have a black door. Well, it's really important to me that our headboard's on this wall. So that's another thing. So I think we should talk about that, because I'd love everybody to leave with some really helpful things that they can shift around their homes that will support them more.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the bedroom first of all, because in order for us all to feel good in life, we know how important a good night's sleep is, and also intimately. So the bedroom, they say, is for rest and romance, right? So the main things to keep in mind is headboard and how that is positioned. So of course, when we talk about your date of birth, there's specific charts, directions that help. But what's even more important is, and what I would say to you, Ethan, are you sitting there all the time? Is that your desk position all the time?
It is. Well, yes, it is.
Okay, so from Feng Shui, if you have a door at your back, and I don't know if that's the main door in that room, because I see another door to the left, but I'm not sure if it's a closet door.
That's the closet, and the main one's behind me.
Yeah. So what happens in Feng Shui is we look at that as like this fast-moving chi right behind you. So people are coming in and out the door, and I don't know, you've got 4 kids, your wife, so there's going to be people perhaps coveted outside the door. And so it's like this feeling of what's going on behind my back that I'm not aware of. You know what I mean? And also, and if you go back even to the mafia, like they will not go into a restaurant and sit with their backs to the door because, we want to feel protected from behind. So we call that in Feng Shui like mountain support, but we want to be able to see the door. Like we want to be able to see it because we want to know, and it allows on a practical level, it allows our nervous system to relax. It's like, okay, I'm protected from behind because nobody's coming. And that's primal. We're going back thousands of years, cavemen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I need to have solid behind me and I need to be able to see the door. Like I've traveled the world. I've visited nearly every sacred site there is. And they're all built in such a way that you can see if friends or foe are coming and that you're supported behind. Now that's the same for your office. You want a solid wall behind you, be able to see the door, and the same thing for your bedroom. Because if you can see the door at night, it means you can rest more because and then it's interesting because they say the one that lies on the side of the bed close to the door is more the protector, and then the one on the other side,
that's totally how it is in our room. I'm kind of the door is just right at the end of our bed, and I kind of sit on the side where if somebody needed to get up and take care of a situation, it would be me.
Yeah, and so that's another thing. So it's better the door at the foot of the head or at the foot of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's a lot of chi coming at you. So ideally, in a perfect world, if we had a solid wall behind us and the door off to the side, that's ideal. And I get it. That's not always possible because we've got closets, doors into bathrooms and windows. So that's the next thing. We'd rather not sleep under a window. Again, we want to sleep and sit at our desk with a solid wall behind us. And we want to be able to see out the window. So when we wake up in the morning, if we can see the sunrise or whatever time you get up, or, that's really inspiring and we feel safer and it'll support a good night's sleep. If you have to sleep under a window and you've got no choice, you want a solid wooden headboard. Because if you've got like metal, it makes it harder to sleep. It's a really high energy element. And a solid wood, if you think of like the roots of a tree going into the earth, it really helps ground us as we sleep. So a solid headboard, and if you have to sleep under a window, like nice thick curtains. And of course, if it's in your house and they're solid, good windows, it's better than an older house that have kind of drafts coming in because that can cause creaks in the neck. And then ideally, we'd rather not have our headboard up against the bathroom with the pipes and stuff like that because there's a lot of movement of energy there. And then we want to keep all the electrical stuff to a minimum, right? Like it's rest and romance. Does really anything need to be in there? Like if we're finishing projects on our laptop, what's that saying to our partners? We could be intimate, we could be communicating about our day, it's like work is more important. And then we've got the EMFs, electromagnetic fields that we'd be bringing into the bedroom. So we want to keep those to a minimum. And the same kind of things come into the office. We want to set the desk up like solid support behind us. We can see the door. And like the office is really important, and especially with a lot of people working from home right now. And especially if they're your own businesses, like, it's like what we put into it, we receive. And like, we all know this, we're all, our own business owners. So I think it's really important, the way we're talking about boundaries, but we have boundaries with ourselves as well, because it's like we get a sign on our door and it's like closed. I'm done. Like I'm not. And that's the thing. We don't want that in the bedroom because then we're stressing like, oh, did I send that email back? Did I do this? Did I, and it's like you have your office and that gets closed and you're done for that day or, whatever works with your schedule.
Yeah. How would you recommend, in some situations, people do have another office. For example, myself, I do have another, like a separate office kind of room in my house that we're able to. You can see we got some padding on the walls here. Ethan and I come and record podcasts here quite often. But in some situations, people's houses just don't work out to where they have the ability to have a separate office, and so they may have an office in their bedroom or something like that. How would you recommend that, even though they're in a non-ideal situation with a door to their back, how can they still create an environment maybe where there's a little bit of a separation, even if let's say they have to have their office in their bedroom or something?
Absolutely. And I've worked with people that live in a studio and it's all in one room, so it's like we want to flow and make whatever space you're living in as supportive as possible. So if you have to, you have to have your desk in there and that works for you, what we want to do is you can get kind of desks, that you actually close. They've got doors on it and you kind of pulls the thing out. So that's like ideal because it's completely closed and you can turn the computer off so there's no EMFs and just make sure. And I think this is a really good practice for all of us anyway. Let's say we're finishing up for the day. And this is something I implemented with a lot of the businesses that I was working with is 15 minutes before, like you just kind of close up all your tasks, you tidy away. I know there's not a ton of paperwork anymore, but just give that last 10, 15 minutes of the day to kind of organize everything. Because we know when we come in the next day and everything's kind of organized, it's so much easier to flow versus a desk that, everything's all over the place. So if you can have it really organized, and then if you don't have one of those desks that close, what you can do, and if it's just a desk, you can do a screen around it. Or if you don't want to do either of those options, you just have a desk, the laptop gets closed down. And even if you just have a piece of fabric that you place over it, or the laptop gets closed and the desk is completely clean, boom, you're done. Like that's it. Closing down the laptop means we're done. We're done here for the day.
I think there's definitely something ritualistic about that kind of closing. There's been days where I'll just, leave my laptop open for work. And if I leave it open, then whenever I get emails, even though it's like, I guess, gone to sleep, it's still like dings when I get an email. And so I'll hear it ding at like 8 o'clock at night. And my mind is like, oh, I got an email. And I'm downstairs or something like that, or I'm trying to get ready for bed or whatever else it may be. And so I think that's, almost ritualistic of what it's something I'm going to start doing is kind of at the end of the day, I'm going to turn my laptop off, just like not just log off, but turn it off. And then I can just turn it back on in the morning.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And then it's like, okay, same thing with me. My phone goes off by, 7 p.m. and it's just like, it's gorgeous, just that it's kind of like, I'm done. I'm clearly done,
Yeah.
and same thing with first thing. And that's actually a big kind of feng shui thing. We look at the EMFs, the electric magnetic field levels. And I suggest, you got your bedroom area and then all that equipment, phones get charged, like get a charging station as far away from the bedrooms and stuff like that as possible. And I actually turn off my internet every night so there isn't any of those kind of frequencies going through the house. And it really promotes a really good night's sleep.
That's great. I've heard a little bit about that. One thing I want to ask you specifically about the bedroom, and I think I would be remiss, and our listeners would be remiss if I didn't ask this, but how can we create maybe a more romantic, sensual environment?
Ooh.
Like what kind of colors or what kind of things can we do? You talked about, the security of being, with your back to a solid wall, seeing the door, having that perspective. But what about like creating that romantic environment to work?
Oh my gosh, I love that you asked that. Absolutely. That's amazing. And I want to tell like a really quick story. Like the 30,000 clients I work with, there's been a lot of men, but I have my certification where I train people on going out in the world to do this work. And I probably had about 10 men come through the courses in 15 years. So they will hire for the consultations. But so like I've had women going like, okay, can you come on and feng shui? Like I'm not saying anything to my husband, come on, can you come at this hour? He's at work, whatever. This is years back. And I go over and, I might say something like, well, it would be really nice if you could share, be honest in your marriage, and they'll implement feng shui, because sometimes it's more subtle shifts and stuff like that versus like knocking down walls and moving front doors and stuff. And so then like I might get a call like a month or so later. Hello, this is Mr. Such and Such, and I believe you were over at our house, and like it's usually money's gone up, the sex got a whole lot better.
Hey.
And they're like, what else could we do here? So anyway, when it comes to the bedroom, I think there's so much you can do because this is like everything in feng shui. When you walk into your office, do you feel abundant? Boom. That's the question. When you walk throughout your home, do you feel abundant? Do you feel vibrant health? Do you feel love and romance? But if you walk into your bedroom, like we want that bedroom to really, really reflect what you want. So if you want it to be loving and romantic, it needs to be like yelling that the minute you walk in the door, because it's like create the village and they will come. It's the exact same thing. You create this really romantic bedroom, well, it's going to attract a lot more romance, right? So the first thing is Well, if somebody's single and I go into their house and they're in a single bed, well, I'm like, good luck, because you don't even have room for a second person there, you know? So ideally we want the size bed where it's enough to fit, but also, you know, I like to have my space in the bed, but you know, like the California king, they do say that that can lack intimacy a bit, like, you know, because it is so big. So ideally, we kind of like to have a size bed where you're comfortable and you got your space, but you're connected, right? As I mentioned, the solid nightstand, right? Because, but then what we want to do is we want to have everything in pairs. So we want to have a pair of nightstands because it's like you matter and I matter and we want balance. So sometimes if I go into a house and there's one nightstand that's this high and one's that, I'm like, okay, there's a clear imbalance in this relationship and it shows up. It keeps showing up all through the home. So we want, you know, we want to show that there's balance and we want to show that both are important. So then it's like colors. So again, we base a lot on colors based on the year, the direction the home is built, but like practically thinking, what's like the love day over here, you know, Valentine's, right? So it's kind of like a little bit of red. So you could bring a bit of that in. It's a color for passion, right? But then we also want to bring earth tones because earth tones is going to promote a good night's sleep. It's very grounding and it's very grounding and centering for the relationship. But like, so again, we talked about keeping work stuff out of the bedroom. Like if we're going to have books, we want to have like the roomy or the love books, not business books, right? And then we want to like, what is the artwork? So for a couple that are married and they kind of want to spruce things up and bring more romance in, like, you don't have any kid pictures in the bedroom. Who needs the kids staring at with you when you're intimate?
Yeah,
like, we
exactly.
Don't need in-law. We don't need the in-law. We don't need anybody.
You gotta like put the pictures down flat.
Yeah. But here's the thing, that is the couple's sacred space. Like that is your space. Like, you know, the home is for the whole house is for everybody, but that bedroom is for you guys. Now I get it. There's sometimes co-sleeping where they come into the bedroom and they, you know, like, but also at the same time, it is really important. We talked about boundaries, that there is boundaries there and that the couple does have this lovely space and it is like, you know, the bedding is more luxurious and, you know, like, the nice stuff is there, like whether it's the nice stuff is high thread count. Like a lot of people, if they're single, say I'm going to keep it for when I'm in the relationship, like the nice underwear or the nice, you know, bedding or whatever. It's like, no, now. And you're saying that you guys as a couple matter, you know? So artwork wise, it should be really intimate artwork. Like, what is it that brings the romance alive? And then the only pictures that should be in there is of you and your partner, and really ultimately like fun, loving, light ones. You know, life can get serious and laundry and making meals and working and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that bedroom is your guys' sacred space, and nothing gets in there unless it is supporting rest and romance. So the artwork, the statues, the like, you know, to just like look through the entire space, the bedding that feels good, you know, make it kind of luxurious and what brings that alive in you guys.
I absolutely love that. That's so great. And, you know, I am similarly for your office space. I imagine you would say the same exact thing. Like put things in your office that motivates you. When you step into your office, you know, have artwork, have things in there that you look at and you say, hey, this is going to get me going and I love this. So, in fact, my wife got me something for Christmas. She got me a little statue of Leonidas, and he's got a big shield, and he's got a spear, and he's ready to go to battle. And I have that on my desk, and it's kind of like, you know,
that's so cool.
I'm sitting here, and I'm at the cockpit of my plane here, and I just go to work, and so that kind of keeps me motivated, and trying to create that space in my environment.
I love that. And I love that you shared, you've got this one space recording and it's like soundproofed and all, which is really amazing. And then you have your office. And so it's really saying that this is something that's important to you and your family and you're being supported. So like, that's really cool. So it is, again, it's like creating that space, and definitely like I've got my vision board here and, you know, the piece now, this is just for when I do videos and stuff like this, but I have my desk area that I sit at. So when you set up your desk, the piece that is behind you when you're working is really, really important. So in Feng Shui, they say like a picture of a mountain is really good because it brings this like strong mountain support behind you. But like, if you want to take it up a notch, you could have a picture of the world is supporting you. Or if you want to take it up a notch from there, a picture of the universe is supporting you. Or if it's your family, they're there behind you, supporting you forward in life. Or that piece that is directly across from your desk And that piece, I'm telling you, that piece that is directly across from your bed is going to be the most, because it's the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning. It's the last piece you see before you go to sleep at night. So just think about the power of the artwork. And I don't know if you remember, but like, The Secret, remember that came out like, what was it, 20 years ago now?
Yeah.
But there was a whole part in it that talked about artwork and the power of it. And there was a Feng Shui segment in it. And, it was that artist guy. He's like, well, what do you want painted? What do you want painted? So it's like, and if you are a painter or a writer, we know the power of the affirmations and having, and we talked about the Dr. Emoto, having things in our environment that feed us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally.
Excellent. You shared so many awesome and amazing tips with us. I feel like you've shared so many practical tips with us today that I'm going to have to re-listen to this episode, a couple times just to implement things and have my wife listen to it and then go through the house and change some stuff. But before we dive into kind of, first I just want to say that you have a course on this, right? And you offer a course. Tell our listeners where they can find you and about a little bit about your course.
Absolutely. Well, my website is joinamandasophia.com and also the International Feng Shui School. And I have an entire certification where if people want to do this practice in the world, start a new career through Feng Shui or add it to something they're already doing, because we now know the power of the environment. And then that's divided into two. So there's a Feng Shui Your Life where you can just learn about it. And, like Feng Shui is an inner outer thing. So we have to do, as you both know, and as you practice and as you share, we have to do our inner work, and then that reflects in the outer, right? So the Feng Shui Your Life portion really works on, healing the inner child and healing, kind of the inner in order for it to reflect on the outer. And then I have my Inner Circle of Feng Shui membership site, and I do live classes, a couple every month for that. So
great. Yeah. Excellent. And then on Instagram, what was your Instagram handle again?
Feng Shui Master Certification.
Okay, and we'll definitely link to that in the show notes. But
brilliant.
We want to ask you, one of the things we always ask our guests is about their personal creed. Now, a creed is a set of beliefs or principles that helps guide you in your personal life. And we want to ask you to maybe share a quote or something that helps guide you that you can share with us and our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like little hints of what I've been sharing all along. One of the most important things to me is I was talking about, it's like when I wake up in the morning, the world has so many demands on us and beautiful things, but also just still where it's outward. So before I go turning on phones, turning on computers, and I usually wake up around 4, so I wake up before my kids, and I don't turn anything on, and the first thing I do is meditate, right? And then I will do my own kind of compassion practice, right? Which is so, so huge because, we really talk about the power of self-worth. And that is really important. But self-worth, when things aren't going so well for us, it's like we can be really hard on ourselves. So I really love the self-compassion practice where we just kind of, and especially all that's going on in the world for the last couple of years, to be really kind to ourselves is really important. And I like to journal. So and then if there's space, then I'll work out. So it's like that morning sets me up. And then the other thing is I'm a huge advocate. I live, in the country in Ireland. I'm a sacred mountain here, forestry and river all around. So nature is it for me. Getting out of nature, if I can do that every day, that's it. And, get the kids up the mountains and stuff like that. So I would say they're the biggies for me.
Love that.
Love it. Yeah.
I'm similar. For me, getting up in the morning, get my routine down. Journaling, a gratitude journal, writing my daily goals, working out, planning for the day. Similar. I think those are all super important things. So, thank you for sharing.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. One thing that I've definitely taken away is just the importance of the environment. I think that can really be overlooked sometimes because it's everything that life gets so busy and it's more about the task and less about the place where you do the task. And I'm definitely going to focus more on my environment because I completely agree that there's so much benefit that can be done from having that spirit uplifting feeling in your day, in your life, with your relationships and everything else. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you both for having me. It was great. And I really enjoyed our time together. So thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, for all the listeners out there, hope you enjoyed this episode. I learned a whole bunch. Let's apply the things that we learned and let's build that creed together.
Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.